nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding, even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face, the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
Not dead. Very much retired. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Let's Talk Movies. I'm Brad.
I'm Miguel.
And this is episode.
First stroke of the night, guys. Let's do it.
It's like the halftime show. This is episode number 7 of Purely and Simply Evil. Welcome back to the show. Tonight on the docket, next up on our list, is Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, the director's cut, or not the theatrical cut. The director's cut isn't a thing. There's the producer's
One of the
cut.
cuts.
We are talking the theatrical cut tonight. Now, we will go back. We will talk the producer's cut closer to Halloween this year. We're saving that commentary. We're saving that episode of Purely and Simply Evil, along with Halloween 3, along with Halloween Kills. We've talked Halloween Kills ad nauseum on the show, but we're going to save some more Halloween content for closer to Halloween time, so that we have some more to talk about there. So, episode number 7, buddy. How you doing? Tuesday night.
I'm a little bittersweet because this is going to be the last time we can talk about Dr. Loomis, man.
That's fair. That is fair. Well, not really, because we'll still have the producer's cut.
Here, let me pour one out for Dr. Loomis. No, I'm just kidding. That's a stupid idea.
Hey,
I'm gonna lose my security deposit if I do that.
To Donald Pleasance, man.
There you go.
What are you drinking? Is that black
shit I was drinking last night? I mean, the night before. I mean, yeah.
For our last show,
because we got a lot of them. We got a lot of them over here at the Miranda house.
Gotcha. I'm drinking my favorite Rheingeist, which is Rheingeist Knowledge. Mm-hmm. It's an IPA, and I really like it. I'm an IPA guy.
Don't expect much of that tonight, guys.
What?
Knowledge.
Oh, well, actually,
where am I at?
Man, listen, there's a lot to talk about with H6. H6, as you all know, possibly has the most complicated backstory of any film in the franchise. And I've kind of been looking forward to the H6 episode just because of like how much there is to talk about. And I'm hype enough. I even got my H6 mask sitting right here with me.
Bro, that mask looks hella weird and dirty.
Give him a. Oh, I love you.
We went there, guys. We just kissed Michael Myers dead in the lips.
You're welcome. Y'all are welcome for that.
That's a you're welcome.
You just right kissed there, H6 Michael on the lips. You're welcome. So H6, buddy. Let's hop into this because, again, like I said, there's a lot to go on. And before we get our discussion rolling, just as a full reminder, I will post the link to our full commentary of Halloween 6 in the chat right now. So go to the chat and definitely check out our, here's the link right now. It is in the chat. Check out our full commentary of H6. Again, this is the theatrical cut. We're not talking about all of the craziness that goes on in the producer's cut. The weird incestual thing with Jamie, just some more kind of wacko scenes that weren't, which I don't know, man, because some of the, it's such a mess. This movie is a mess in so many ways. There's stuff, honestly, in the producer's cut that I like better, but there's also stuff in the theatrical cut that I like better. Like, it's just kind of, you basically decide which way you want to take it with this movie. Like, and you have to make a decision. Like, that's just, you have to make a choice. You have to. So it's an interesting one. Halloween 6 released on September 29th, 1995, directed by Joseph Pell, written by Daniel Ferens, who was actually a fan. He was a screenwriter, but he was a fan of the Halloween franchise. And before we really get into this, like, it's important to remember that there is so much more to H6 that we could cover in one sitting. That's why we're going to have to break that. That's why we didn't want to tackle the producer's cut and the theatrical cut in the same sitting because there's so much extra stuff. Plus, there's so much extra crap that goes on with the unmade script. I mean, it's just like it's a freaking mess. So, by the way, JT,
Hey,
buddy,
JD.
what's going on? I was actually I saw one of your posts or something on Instagram, and I was just thinking, man, we haven't seen him in the chat in a while, and look at God.
Lo and behold.
Here you are, buddy. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
We got to get you back on at some point, man. One of our goals this year, man, is to have a whole bunch of different people on. So you're definitely on the list. We want to have you back. So Halloween 6, man. Halloween 6. Again, September. It's weird that it was released on. I think it's weird, and it's the 29th. It's the end of September, but I still feel like it's weird. It's weird when Halloween movies are released in any other month besides October to me. Like, that's strange, you know?
It goes to show how much this movie was prepped for success.
Well, I don't know. Oh my God.
Don't choke on your words, my guy. We still got another hour.
Had a $5 million budget, only made 15.1 mil in the US box office. And like you kind of just said, it didn't have a lot going for it. This was the first to be produced by Dimension, which you had even kind of said this in our commentary. Like that could probably account for some of the tone shift, because there is a little bit this, you know, as I've said before, as you know, and I will acknowledge there are a lot of things where they did go back to John Carpenter's original vibe, like a lot of the color grading, the lighting. You know, there was actually a really good discussion in the comments, I believe, of our H6 commentary, where somebody had said to us in a comment, they were like, you know, you could argue, though, that Halloween 6 has the most original 78 vibe than any of the other sequels. And I would agree with that. I think there are things, well, not in the story, but the setting, it feels Halloween. The blue lighting, the score, not so much. The score had the whole Metallica thing going on. Like it's you have it on electric guitar, but you also get the like where crap like that when Michael's like chasing Tommy or whatever. Like, it's strange. It sounds like a cat like scratching its nails on a chalkboard. It's strange. So the score, not so much, but there are ways that it does. That it does kind of reiterate the things that John Carpenter did in the past. So, I mean, I will go with that. Or I will agree with that. Excuse me. Shot in Salt Lake City in 94, went over terribly with test audiences. They thought it was just awful. So there were a ton of reshoots, and really we'll find, you know, as we talk about this, that was one of the biggest problems with Halloween 6 is I think there were way too many hands in the pot. I mean, you know, again, we even talked about the unmade scripts and things like that. I mean, if you want a perfect rundown of all of the unmade Halloween scripts, go to Mike and Jay's channel and watch the movie, dude. They have like every single script laid out of all of the unmade sequels, and it's bonkers. Some of the places that they wanted to take this movie makes me question my entire life, like, of how you thought that was ever going to be a good idea. And as you even brought up before, one of the sad things that, you know, who knows how it would have altered some of the reshoots. Donald Pleasance died on February 2nd of 95, 8 months before they released the film. They dedicated it to his memory. Almost 50 minutes of extra footage was left on the cutting room floor. And that's actually where the producer's cut comes from, because it ended up, that extra footage ended up in the form of bootleg copies of Halloween 6. And, you know, they were going for like absurd amounts of money on eBay. It was like a Halloween black market thing. Like, it was like people wanted those bootleg copies of all of the extra footage that wasn't supposed to be included in the theatrical version. And they actually finally officially released the producer's cut in 2014. And again, we'll talk the producer's cut later on, but we're focusing on the theatrical cut. H4, big success. H5, complete flop. One review of H5 even went as far as saying that it spit on the grave of John Carpenter's original masterpiece.
John Carpenter, is John Carpenter still alive?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
then
he's
that's
still
a
alive.
shitty comment to say.
No, he's alive.
He spits on the grave of John Carpenter. What the fuck?
Of John Carpenter's masterpiece. Like they're spitting on the original Halloween.
Oh,
Basically. Yeah. That's harsh. That's harsh words, bro. That's fighting. You want to go, bro? You want to go, bro? Bro? Listen,
that's
I went
some.
to
That's
the
some
store
like
the other day.
That's some like reviewers like choice words that you use is like, oh, that's gonna give me so many clicks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, listen, I went to the
I feel
store
like
the
if
other
that's
day.
like on the title of like just if you look up like Halloween 5 or 6 and it like and like you get a Google results, that's like the first thing you see. It's like, yeah, I'm definitely reading that. So
This is completely unrelated. I think it was when I went to go buy this beer before the Super Bowl. I went in the store and the guy goes to check me out and he's like, "What's up, bro? That'll be $10.50, bro. Are you using card, bro?" I was like, "Why?" Snap out of it. Like, stop saying bro. And then he almost knocked over. Julia wanted a thing of wine, and he almost knocked over the bottle of wine, and we caught it. And he put his hand on top of my hand, and he was like, "That was a close one,
bro.
I was like, "Goodbye." Like, this is awkward. This is really weird. And he kept
Was
like
this
looking
the-
like dead in the eyes, like, "Bro." I mean,
was this the same guy that we like met like whenever I was there?
No.
No, just a different guy.
Different store. Yeah,
Bro,
I
they
don't know,
picking
it's
up
weird
man,
interaction.
your town's picking up weird dudes, buddy.
Weird interaction. So back to H6. Mustafa Akkad decided to wait on giving H6 the green light. They were trying to gauge whether people were still interested in Michael Myers, because you have to remember, Freddy and Jason were the kings of the 80s, not Michael, not the Shape. I mean, Michael was not, he had 3 H2, H4, H5. He only had 3 movies. Well, Michael only had 3 movies. There was H3 in there as well. But he only had 3. And I mean, good Lord, there were like almost all of the Elm Streets were in the 80s, almost all of the Fridays, except for let me think. Except for Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X, which we're actually going to come back to Jason X because there's a funny tie-in to this. And meanwhile, while all of this is already going on, there's a war being waged between John Carpenter, who was also on the side of Rob Shea and New Line Cinema, who actually produced A Nightmare on Elm Street. John Carpenter wanted the rights back for New Line Cinema to take over Halloween. And Mustafa Akkad and Harvey Weinstein. Don't forget, Harvey Weinstein had a huge part of this franchise. And Miramax wanted to keep the rights. And we all know how that turned out. Harvey and Mustafa won that battle. And Miramax got the rights because this movie was released as a Miramax film, which I didn't even know. This Dimension was like a subsidy of Miramax. I didn't know that. Did you?
No, but I mean, fuck, Harvey Weinstein had his hands in a lot of pots. I gotta say,
he did, man. And I mean, and I think the whole thing with him is garbage juice. But like, it's weird like how involved people like that can be. You know what I mean? Like how many different projects he probably had his hands.
It's interesting.
You know,
well, my thing is like, there's so many like subsidy studios out there, but they all go to like one of like the probably 4 or 5 major companies out there. You know what I mean?
Fair.
So
yeah, fair.
Like you have like 4 at best major studios, and then it just branches out to other subsidiaries. And honestly, like I'm not surprised in that regard that if Harvey Weinstein had his hands in it. And yeah, that's some shit. Like I don't know what else to fucking say.
Yeah.
I just found that out just now. Thanks for telling me.
And the interesting thing is, so I mean, obviously, Akkad and Weinstein won that, but for the first time, Akkad for the first time, Akkad didn't have control over everything. He wasn't the head guy. You had Akkad, you had Harvey Weinstein, you had the producers, you had Daniel Farrens who wrote the script, you had the director. Like that's what I mean by there were so many hands in the pot. I feel like that's the biggest detriment to Halloween 6, and that's why it feels choppy. That's why the story is kind of all over the place. I think, and we'll talk about this too in a minute. I think Daniel Farrens wrote now granted, I don't like the direction he took with the cult and all of that stuff, but I think he had a well thought out story, and it was just it was manhandled by all of these different people. You know what I mean? Because you have to remember, Daniel Farrens also directed Never Sleep Again and Crystal Lake Memories, which are two. Honestly, listen, Never Sleep Again is one of the best documentaries, period, I've ever seen. Like the way it's laid out, the interviews that they got, the people they got for that. It's that's the whole, basically the entire history of A Nightmare on Elm Street. He directed both of those, and they're amazing. And as a big Halloween fan, he decided to write his own treatment of what he thought Halloween 6 should be. He showed it to one of the producers from Halloween 5. Dude was super impressed enough that he wanted to set up a meeting with Mustafa Akkad. So he set up this meeting with him. And by the way, hold on. I gotta do my shameless plug. Gotta plug it. Taking Shape. If you guys don't have Taking Shape, you're wrong. Like, that's what I'm gonna say. If you're a Halloween fan and you're not Taking Shape, you're wrong.
What?
Like legit one of the best movie companion things you could ever find. I mean, it's got everything. That's where a lot of this information comes from. Plus, the internet's a great place, Jim.
What do you mean by that?
The internet's a great place. You can find anything on the internet.
Oh yeah,
and
sure.
the internet.
I swear to God,
the internet never lies.
Oh my
100% true all the time.
Bro, literally the next time when we see like Halloween ends, we gotta like do a hashtag called like it's gotta be like Taking Shape. Like we're gonna go see Halloween ends. Hashtag Taking Shape.
What?
Because it's like the thing for Michael Myers. He's the shape, so we're just taking shape.
Oh, okay, fair.
Yeah.
I understand now. I was confused. So I pulled this quote. This is an actual quote from Daniel Farrens. He said, "I spent weeks preparing for the meeting and came in with a huge notebook filled with Halloween research. I had the entire series laid out in a timeline, a bio of every character, a family tree of the Myers and Strode clans, as well as all of the research I had compiled about the runic symbol thorn, and was briefly shown in Halloween 5. Excuse me. I then laid out how I thought all of this might be explored in Halloween 6. So he actually created what Akkad called the Halloween Bible, which he actually referred to pretty frequently with H2O, with Resurrection, with some of the other films. The dude did his homework. And that's why I say I don't think a lot of the issues with H6 are necessarily Daniel Farrens' problem at all. I don't think they are. I think... Again, I don't like the cult thing. That's not my cup of tea, but I completely respect that's where and you also have to think, at this point, I'm sure they were trying to think, okay, where do we go from here? What I mean?
You kind of can't anchor the entire story just on just Michael alone.
Exactly. What do you do?
Even though that's definitely what you can do, they didn't think that.
Yeah. And listen, I will say it is partially the H5 writers' fault, because they famously were like, look, we had no idea what the Man in Black was. We had no idea what that symbol on his hand was. We just threw it in there because we thought it would make it more interesting. And it's like, what? Like you didn't have a plan for this. You were just like, hey, it looks good. They didn't think it out. They didn't have an idea of how it would go. They just completely randomly were like, hey, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, we'll just bake it, done. That was it.
Bake it, done.
That was bing bing.
Bing
so
bong.
Yeah, I don't know, man. And you have to remember, Miramax had already bought this. I mean, there were so many hands in the pot, and there had already been, even before Daniel Farrens came along, there were numerous other drafts and treatments of scripts that went through Akkad's office, and he hated all of them. I mean, there was a kind of a legend at this point that the original title for Halloween 6 was Halloween 666: The Origin. That was the original title of the movie. And there's kind of a rumor that when Akkad read the script, he literally tore it and threw it across the room. That's how much he hated it. Because I mean, it was crazy. It was like it had Michael living in a homeless shelter, and he killed somebody with a rat, and Loomis was a patient at Smith's Grove. It was like, what? Like, how you're gonna have Michael living in a homeless shelter? Like, really? Why? Like, how does that work? Like, can you like just bunked up next to other homeless people? Like, hey man, what's going on? You know what I mean?
Well,
Like
I
with
mean,
the
the
mask
whole,
on,
like-
like that's awkward.
The whole like him being in the mental hospital. I mean, it would make sense with the amount of bullshit he had to go through. But
Oh yeah,
I think at age 6, it made sense for Loomis to just be like, you know what, dog, I'm retiring. Fuck out of here. After
Not dead.
working so hard,
very much retired.
after working so hard trying to keep Michael at bay, and then he ends up being just a fucking serial killer, and then realizing that his niece turned out to be the same way. Fuck it. I would have retired. I'd be like, here's
Been
my,
like,
I'd
know
be
what,
like,
I'm out.
here's my dissertation. Your boy's out. I'm
I
sorry.
feel like the guy. What's the old Vine where the guy jumps in the trash can? This shit, I'm out.
Oh yeah.
And he's just like, I'm done. I'm calling it.
Yep.
Even at one point, Quentin Tarantino was supposed to write and I believe possibly direct one of these. And I think his idea was something to do with Route 66. He wanted Michael and the Man in Black to be like on the run together, like cruising in a black convertible down Route 66, like going through America's heartland, just like laying down bodies, like, which I'm not, that sounds like the most Quentin Tarantino thing I've ever heard. You know what I mean? Does it not?
Yeah, for sure.
Could you imagine if this would have been in his like roster of movies?
I
Could you
know that's what
imagine?
confused. That's what confused me the most was that, like, how like Quentin Tarantino has always been like, I only have like probably about like 6 or 10 movies in.
Yeah,
That's it.
like he's got like a number.
Yeah, he's like Adele with the whole bullshit number stuff. So like, it would make no sense for someone to pay him to want to do a movie. So I knew for a fact that if he was going to divert from his like numbers of movies, it would have been for like a lot of money, and he would have had free reign. But knowing how how many hands were in this fucking pot, I'm not surprised that he was like, no.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because they originally even asked John Carpenter to come back, but he wanted to send Michael to space, which I know would make a ton of fans of the franchise, including me at first.
Are you serious?
Like
he
wanted,
what?
John
Carpenter wanted
Carpenter
Michael to go to space?
He wanted to send him to space. And like when I first read that and heard that, I was like, no way. I was like, John Carpenter would not take his simple creation and be like, yep, launch him up in a rocket. But you have to think, if I'm John Carpenter, they've already wrecked any intent that I had for the original film. Like they've already tanked the entire thing. So he's probably like, you know what? Why not? Let's get wild. Let's get nasty,
weird, guys.
Let's get weird. Like, let's send him to space. And it's funny because I told you we're going to come back to Jason X in a minute. This is rumored to be the inspiration for how Jason X happened, for sending Jason to space.
They said, well, if we're not sending Michael, we're sending Jason.
They looked at New Line Cinema and whoever owned the rights for Friday the 13th, and they were like, it's got to be one of you all, so take a pick.
It's got to be
one of you It doesn't make sense for Freddy to be in space, although, God, that would be terrifying.
That would be terrifying.
That would be awful. That'd be worse than Jason. Freddy would be worse than Michael or Jason in space. That'd be pretty bad.
I don't know.
That'd be pretty bad.
I could go on a full rant about like the whole idea of space. Space is scary enough. You don't need a slasher in there. Space is scary enough.
Listen, I know people love it, and there's some fun. Like, it's cool. It's funny. I can't stand Jason X. Listen, the last time I tried to watch Jason X, I had a couple beers. I got a quarter of the way through the movie, and then I woke up at 3 a.m. and it was on the menu. That's what happened the last time I tried to watch it. I can't stand Jason. Like, it's what I will watch Jason Goes to Hell 5 times before I watch Jason X once. I just can't do it. It's just not. It ain't my cup of tea. It's not. At least Jason Goes to Hell still.
Does he actually go to hell?
At the end, he dies. Yeah, he dies.
Oh.
He dies until Freddy resurrects him in Freddy versus Jason. So neither one of them really died because they were both in hell. You know, because like at the beginning of Freddy versus Jason, Freddy says like, I had to search like the deepest pits of hell to find him or whatever. And like, you know, whatever.
Damn, deepest parts of hell. Like, where is he next to? Like, you gotta
Also,
think,
Freddy's.
how far in hell do you think Jason is in regards to like hell? It's pretty far.
I don't know. At least Jason's trying to do it for his mom. Freddy's doing it because he's a sick, nasty man and he enjoys it.
Yeah, right.
You know, he enjoys
It's
like touching people.
Yeah, it's like Freddy was like at the very bottom, and then Jason was just like a step level up, and he was like, "Dude, where is he?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Wow,
Dude,
I didn't think."
I'll tell you what. I love Michael and I love Jason. Michael is, I guess you'd say Michael is the most normal
Emotionalist
serial killer.
No,
because
he's the most emotionalist
like
serial killer.
Jason is doing it for his mom. Michael just wants to because he just wants to. Freddy is definitely the most disturbing of the three. Or
Freddy
most
is
of the original slashers.
Freddy was like the embodiment of like just people just want to watch the world burn.
Yes.
Like he really is. Like he got
it's
burned
not
alive,
even that.
so obviously he wants the world to burn.
Even Leatherface, like Leatherface was doing it for his family. Jason was doing it for his mother. Michael is just a psycho and just does it because he wants to. Freddy gets like a sick sexual thrill off of like torturing people and like
he gets a hard on every time he hears someone sleeping.
Plus he, I mean, that's what it was. You can say what you will. He was a child molester.
My man was a child
Freddy
toucher.
was. He was.
Yeah,
he was a child murderer,
and he deserved to burn in hell.
Yeah, Freddy is definitely the most sadistic, the gross. I mean, listen, if Freddy just has free reign to walk around in hell and try to find Jason, then okay, then yeah. Like,
which was like another thing where I was never really much. It was really hard for me to like be a fan of Freddy. Just off that knowledge alone was the fact that he was killed because he was touching children. I was like, a lot of people are a fan of him. That's hard for me to be a fan of.
Well,
I'm not gonna lie.
Bro,
no.
We went from crazy. You have to look at the evolution of Freddy, and this is,
what is he evolutionized to? Touching kids in real life to touching kids in their dreams?
No,
That's
but like
fucked.
they kind of, in the original movie, they kind of danced around the child molester part of his character.
It was well established.
In part 2, they kind of did it more with the homosexual undertones, with like there's even, I believe in Never Sleep Again. I forget his name. The guy who plays Jesse in part 2 said at one point they cut the scene because I think it made Robert Englund and the guy who plays Jesse so uncomfortable. But Freddy was supposed to like take the like his like index finger and like go in and out of his mouth with it, like weird, like it was supposed to be, like they really pushed it into 3 through Freddy's Dead was MTV Freddy. It wasn't really about Freddy was making his quips and he was joking. That's when people started to love Freddy. You know what I mean? People wanted Freddy was the main character. He was the star. He wasn't the villain anymore. Freddy was what people came to see because he was funny. Like, he is the villain, but you have to admit some of the stuff that Freddy says in those later Elm Street sequels, he's hilarious. Like, he's pretty funny, but again, it was a different tone. It was a different vibe. Then you get to Freddy versus Jason and he became all sick and sexual again. And then you get to the remake, and of course he was nasty in the remake. They really pushed the sexual thing. So I don't know. It's interesting, like the characterization and like the dichotomy of these different characters,
No, Freddy was just a straight up fucking sleazeball, like eating like.
Yeah, he is.
Like definitely. the whole Freddy. I never forget when I saw Freddy versus Jason. I always thought to myself, I was like, who the fuck is rooting for Freddy? Like, honest to God, like if I had to choose between Freddy versus Jason, bro, let Jason just slap that guy in the face.
I always thought that was so funny.
Like, I ain't about to see this
Jason
shit.
Because it's like, Jason's trying to kill you too, and they're like, I don't care, I'm on Jason, I'm on with him.
Yeah,
I'm with Jason, I'm with him, man. It's just,
and they pretty much did. Like the whole movie, it was pretty much directed towards like Jason. Like even though he was like used as like a vessel, as like something to like a weapon to aim at.
Right.
Eventually, throughout the movie, they were like, if anyone's gonna like kill him, it's gonna be Jason. So might as well.
Well, and it's funny. I remember watching the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and of course, I haven't seen that movie in ages. We'll have to do an episode on that. In the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street, which it's got its problems, but I think there was a whole lot of stuff that they did really well in that remake. And I know people hate it. It's been a while since I've seen it. He looked terrible. The CGI makeup, he looked like a burnt animal. It was terrible.
Wish.com, Freddy Krueger.
But the performance was good. And I remember there was a scene that really shocked me. I was like, Nancy, it was towards the climax of the movie when Nancy's trying to bring him out of the dream so she can like actually fight him. And she's letting him get on top of her and she's in bed. I don't know. I mean, she's in dream world. So he he makes her in a white dress, and he gets her on the bed. And at one point he's got the glove and he's like riding up her skirt and he's on top of her and he leans in her ear and he says, "You were always my favorite," or whatever. And that is when he says, "I'm your she's screaming for Glenn. And that's when he says, "I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy," in the remake. And I remember sitting there in the theater and I was like, we're really going here right now. Like this is low-key a whole ass rape scene.
Yep.
Like it is. And of course she snaps out of it and wakes up and she brings Freddy out of the dream and they can fight him. But it was just I remember thinking like, are we really like, this is really about to happen right now? So yeah, it's we just got way sidetracked from H6, but it's interesting, man. It's definitely interesting how these characters, kind of evolve and change. J-Dad says the best thing about Michael Myers is that we really still don't know his motive or reasoning. We can only speculate, which makes it even scary. And man, that's the whole point. Like that's why I'm afraid that they're going to explain too much in Halloween Ends with the radio tower, with what I just don't know. I don't want it to be I don't want it to be what they did in H6, where it's like, hey, it's a cult controlling him, and he's kind of their pet dog, and he's, it's too much. It's way, way, way too much.
Yeah, I really hope so too. But there hasn't been like any like hints of like a House of Thorns or like a cult thing. It's just been like just Michael fucking shit up.
Yeah, it would feel super out of place. Like if all of a sudden they were like, and the Druid cult and all of this stuff, it would be like, what? Like, where did any of this come from? This isn't anything that you've had to do, This had to do with the rest of it. So I don't know.
And like in the flashback, I mean, there really wasn't. I mean, you pretty much got your answer as to what happened to Michael. You just said,
right.
I mean, Hawkins' partner just said, "Yo, dog, he just fucking snapped." Like we don't fucking know. Yeah. He just snapped. He was just a weird guy, and he snapped.
Yeah, he was just a weird little kid, and then suddenly he killed his sister, and that was it. There is no other. There's no reason. So I actually pulled this quote from Wikipedia. This is another quote by Daniel Ferens. Or actually, no, this is not a quote by Daniel Ferens. This is talking about kind of the complications of what he had to do. So this said, from Wikipedia, in June of 1994, Ferens was hired to write a new screenplay as the film had an impending shooting date scheduled for October in Salt Lake City, Utah. Ferens has said that his initial intent for the film was to bridge the later films, meaning Halloween 4 and 5, in the series to the earlier films, Halloween 1 and 2, while at the same time taking the story into new territory so that the series could expand for future installments. This in part meant expanding on the presence of the Man in Black, as well as the appearance of the thorn symbol, both of which appear without explanation at the end of Halloween 5. In the beginning of the script, Ferens contacted the writers of Halloween 4 and 5 for additional information, but they were unable to provide clear answers, leaving him to pick up the pieces. Again, boom, you have got to blame the writers of H5 for some of this. Not all of it. I'm not saying H6 is their fault. But I'm saying H6. No, I'm kidding. I'm not saying that. But if they wouldn't have just thrown in the Man in Black and thrown in the thorn symbol without literally any other reason than just adding like unnecessary mystery, maybe Halloween 6 wouldn't have been such a strange, choppy mess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I would agree.
I don't know. I mean, he even said there was I believe it was something like 10 scripts in between June and October of 94. Like, I mean, it how look the Halloween and the franchise is known for having a ton of different drafts and versions and treatments and scripts of unmade movies, but maybe H6 wouldn't have had to have been such a mess. Maybe it wouldn't have been rewritten probably more than any other Halloween film in the franchise if the H5 writers would have been a little bit more, dare I say, competent?
Direct with their story. Yeah,
exactly. Like purposeful, It was
if they had like an intentional storyline in place, then the writers of H6 would have had a decent foundation to go with. But instead,
perfectly said.
But instead, what H5 did was they did what they did in hopes that it gives them enough information to just create a story. But what in reality, it just made it so broad that the writers of H6 didn't really know where to go from here. They were just like, well, we don't know. We'll just throw shit on the wall and see what sticks, which is why we got like 10 or so scripts. So I don't know. It's just like, I have never seen like a genre before in my life that's every single like franchise, every single entry in a franchise has gone through like multiple, if not several, different types of scripts. And it's like, bro, why can't we just make a script and just fucking go with it for God's sakes?
Yeah, again, Mike Holtz, man, we watched a movie. He had even said at one point, he was like, how hard is it to make a movie about a guy in a mask that kills people?
Right?
Why is that so hard?
For some reason.
And Mike put it perfectly. Like, how? I don't know. Why do we
honestly? Why does every single serial killer? Why does every single like evil villain has to like either like it has to go through something like absolutely like ridiculous? It has to go supernatural, borderline. Like if it's supernatural, make it supernatural,
right?
But if it's just a slasher guy, like just make him a fucking slasher. The fucking Stepfather was scarier than Halloween 6. And that was like, what the fuck? And that was just about a stepdad. The fuck, dude? So
yeah,
that's pretty scary.
Sure. He said, sure, Deborah. Why don't you just give her all of our money?
Right? I was like, bro.
It's like, dude, calm down. She's trying to help your daughter out. Chill, man.
When fucking Trent from The Stepfather is scarier than fucking Michael Myers himself, that's how you know, like, the script is like, that's how you know there isn't much ideas written in the script. Okay, so he goes to space. Okay, so he's in hell. Like, where the fuck are we getting at here? Obviously, I'm talking about like Jason, but it's the same. That's the same thing that I'm getting with like Michael Myers. Knowing how many scripts are out there and how many ideas are being thrown out there, or quote unquote shit thrown on the wall, like, I don't get why there's so much like stress into thinking like, oh God, how do we make a good movie? Oh, here's the thing, just write about another person and he's getting chased by Michael Myers. It's as simple as that. People will pay money to see it. It doesn't matter if it's redundant. Who cares? It's Michael Myers. It's supposed to be redundant, for fuck's sakes, guys.
And you know what's crazy is like originally they wanted the entire town, like all of Haddonfield, to be members of this cult. But Akkad felt like it was
that's some dumb shit right there.
It's too much.
That's
right?
some dumb shit. So you mean to tell me Democrat Leah that has like a flower shop is in a cult the same as fucking Kyle, the Republican that works at the tire shop? Are you saying they're in the same cult? I highly doubt it. Just saying. The town is too diverse for it to be in a single cult filled with everybody.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's funny because Joe Chappelle, who is the director, he actually told Fangoria, he said, the good thing is that expectations for this movie are not going to be very high. People are going to expect the worst. After H5, it can only get better. And I think we're going to surprise a lot of people because they aren't going to expect anything more than what the title suggests.
That's how you know, like, the writers were just like, yo,
like, wow.
Honest to God, we ain't expecting much. As long as we get our money back, we're good.
You know, it's just funny because it's like you got to put yourself in their shoes. You're trying to breathe new life into a film, breathe new life into a franchise. How do you do that? Like, if you look at what H5 was, there's no way that you could tell a really great story and just completely reroute H5 without it turning into Toontown from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Like let's be real, it's just crazy. And again, the biggest issue with this movie, as we kind of get into the plot and stuff like that, the biggest issue is it builds on his mythology. And I know people like the Cult of Thorn thing. I think it's ridiculous to me. Like, Daniel Farron said, and then another quote, he said, he can't just be a man anymore. He's gone beyond that. He's mythical. He's supernatural. So I took it from the standpoint that there's something else driving him, a force that goes beyond that 5 senses that he has infected a boy's soul and is now driving him. So, I mean, he wanted, he wanted to take it somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel bad for him because he even said this was like seeing his childhood turned into a nightmare. He said he had to watch while the producers basically ripped his script apart and just took bits and pieces. And again, like we said at the beginning of this discussion, like everybody had their hands in the pot, so I don't know. I don't think it's his fault, and it's not a terrible movie. It's good. I mean, it's not bad. It's definitely not the worst. I can tell you that.
It's good. You sound like someone.
Not...
You sound like someone that went to like their aunt's place and they just tried a new recipe and she's like so excited about it and you're eating it and it tastes like shit. I'm like it's good, bro. It fucking sucks.
Yeah,
that shrimp casserole is fucking dog water. Get the fuck out of here with that shit.
I don't know, man. It's interesting, and again, I think Daniel Farron's did a great job. I think he did his homework. Daniel Farron's, buddy, if you're watching right now, we'd love to have you on. Shoot us an email.
Sure,
let's set it up. Let's do it. Hit us up, man. We'll do it. So let's talk about the plot a little bit. Opening of the plot yet. We haven't talked about the plot. That was almost an hour of just talking about the production. Told you it's wild. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. It's Bronco sauce from Arby's. I don't know. Okay. So again, the movie opens. We don't know it's Smith's Grove at the time, but we're in kind of this underground thing. Jamie, unfortunately, was recast, and this girl she was fine. I mean, she did an okay job, but it wasn't Danielle Harris. And that's, I think, again, another thing that at least would have made this movie feel more connected to H5. But it really didn't feel very connected to H5. Like it didn't. This kind of felt like its own entity. And of course, Jamie has now had a baby. Surprise!
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowewhere. And again, we don't know.
It's like we literally jumped like I don't fucking know like how many years since because Jamie was like fucking.
She was a kid.
4.
She was not. She was older than 4. She was probably 8, but she wasn't old. But she's probably in her early 20s now. I mean, it's been a hot second,
Yeah.
Maybe late teens, early 20s.
Damn.
But
bitch didn't even make it past her 20s. That's some shit, dude.
It is. It's sad. I mean, Jamie's story is very, very sad if you really think about it.
It really is.
And of course, in the again, we're talking the theatrical cut. We don't know that it's Michael's baby. That's not revealed until the producer's cut.
Bro, I swear for God, if that was Michael's baby. Bro, can you imagine? Oh, girl, some shit. Oh, boy, I'm just saying though, and the way he looked at her in H4, that was some Freddy shit right there. I'm just saying.
He did cry.
He did cry.
Freddy. Oh man. And it's cool. I do like the opening, like the blue lighting, the fog. The nurse obviously helps Jamie escape, and that's when we start getting the Halloween music for the first time.
Bro, whenever she got like picked up or whatever, or whenever she like took the guy's truck, I could have sworn whenever he grabbed that guy, I could have sworn that was gonna be Antonio Banderas just like turning around, since it was a Dimensions film.
What, bro? That guy was drinking like Coors Light. Actually, no, he was drinking like that Busch Light. He had that. Bro,
like let it be a beer. Let it be a Modelo and let the guitar play as soon as Antonio Banderas turns around. Bro, was this before like Spy Kids became a thing? Because I swear, like that's when I think of a Dimensions.
What year did Spy Kids come out?
I don't know, but when I think of Dimensions films,
2003. Yes, this was 1995.
Holy shit, Dimensions was out there, bro. Until they decided to go the kid route.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't But even it's a very confusing opening at first until you kind of get your feet on the ground, because Jamie's screaming, people in cloaks are pushing her, which we know she's giving birth. We see them painting the thorn symbol in blood on the baby, which I'm not gonna lie, kind of makes me extremely uncomfortable to watch. And the nurse ends up helping Jamie out. Jamie makes it to the surface. It's raining. She's holding a baby. Also, props to Jamie, bro. She just gave birth and she's just like running around trying to, which again, adrenaline, you're trying to save your own life and your kid's life. I get it. First time we see Michael.
You get it, bro. That's a fucking like bear mentality. That's a mama bear mentality right there. Mom
mentality. It's dope. The first time we see Michael is actually pretty cool. Because it's the nurse here, he
also
the
came
nurse,
out of nowhere.
Well, it's funny because she hears sound and she's like, Jamie. It's like she isn't gonna come back for you.
No,
Jamie did not run back down those stairs to help you out. Like there's no way. And then it's just like out of the darkness.
New challenger, pretty much. Yeah, shit like that.
Well, it's funny because he picks her up by the throat, and it's like you imagine the finish him. And again, the spike that has no purpose being on that wall. You even said that in our commentary. You were like, that spike is just conveniently sitting right there on the wall for him to like, and just push. Yeah, strange. It's actually cool because we get a head tilt there too, which we haven't had a head tilt in a while. He puts her head on the spike and he does the whole, he just kind of tilts his head and stands there, which is the first time we hear the, again, like we said, the Metallica on the electric guitar. Jamie's running. And speaking of your Bush Light dude, his death is bad.
Yeah.
And my question, first of all, who just stands out in a pouring thunderstorm drinking beer and a blue poncho? That's some redneck crap right there.
Bro, you gotta think, like, how fucking shitty that man's life has been. He's probably been driving like 16 hours out of that night, and then all of a sudden he decides to stop and take a smoke break. And the place he stops to take a smoke break happens to be a fucking next to a cult birthing, if that's the right way to say it. Like,
but he's next to like train tracks. Like, why?
You kind of played your cards wrong that day, man. Just saying.
I don't know. And of course, she gets in the truck and drives away, and he's like, "What are you doing with my truck?" And she says, "Watch out." And of course, by the time he turns, Michael
is. That's a pretty prejudiced shit right there. Damn.
Whatever. What?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
What you doing to my truck?
Well, am I wrong? Is that
country accent I've ever heard in my fucking life?
Am I wrong?
That's probably the most Floridian accent I've ever heard.
Well, what can I say?
What you doing in my truck? Like,
and I do kind of have a weird issue with the whole bus station thing, because it's like nobody, like nobody was at the bus station to help her when she got there.
To be honest, we don't really. Do you know what a bus stop is? Do you know what a bus station looks like? Do you know what it's like? I mean, is it really? No. I feel like it would be empty that late at night.
But there wouldn't be anybody working. I mean, she just gave birth. She's bleeding. She's in pain. She's holding a crying baby with blood drawn all over it. Like,
bro, I was wondering.
It's sketchy crap going on here. If I was an employee at that bus stop, I'd be like, I'm calling the police right now. Like, this is bad.
Yeah.
Something's wrong.
I'm just saying, dude. You gotta love it how like most birthing scenes in movies are like in the night or like really late at night. Bro, what if her birthing was like fucking like 10:38 in the morning? Like, do you know how fucking weird that would be? Like to go through all that shit, but like in the fucking morning.
She was down in a tunnel though, McDonald's, so we didn't even really know.
Yeah, like McDonald's hasn't even started serving lunch back then. Like that's still like very much the morning. So like I don't know. Like, can you imagine her giving birth in the morning and her running to the bus station like that?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's some shit to like wake up or go to work to. Like you're just like over here like Charles going to his 8:15 morning rush to his cubicle in the fucking town, and all of a sudden there's that lady all bleeding out holding her baby. I feel like the situation. I feel like Jamie probably would have been like alive today if she had given birth in the morning. If Jason Jr. if Michael Jr. was a morning baby, Jamie might have been alive. I'm just saying, man.
Interesting.
That was
Interesting
a lot. Yeah, I'm
thoughts.
sorry.
That
You
interesting
know what's
thoughts.
but you know what's even more funny? Pretty sure that was probably one of those 10 scripts that they wrote.
Well, it's funny because the common denominator at the beginning of the film between all of our main characters, between Jamie, between Dr. Loomis, and between the sexiest man alive. No, I'm kidding. Between Tommy Doyle, Mr. Paul Rudd.
Oh.
Mr. First movie baby Paul Rudd.
I was like, did Dr. Loomis win that year? I don't know. I was kind of confused.
Is the radio broadcast, the guy's on the radio and he's saying, and it kind of makes fun of the whole like women always want to like be with Michael Myers, like they always want to like kiss him, like there's like a weird attraction. I don't know, it's weird. There's a weird attraction to him. And they're kind of making fun of that, and the guy's being all like, you don't really think he's still alive, do you? And of course that's where we're introduced to Mr. Tommy Doyle, who apparently has just become kind of a creeper. Like
Tommy?
The first time we even see him,
just like
Kara puts Danny to bed and she's changing. She's in her bra and she looks out the window and Tommy's got his whole like his atomic telescope like in her. And it's funny. Telescope? Well, listen, it's funny because she sees him and he goes, it's like she sees him watching her like undress, and he goes,
he's like, shit, I got caught.
And but he doesn't try to even like hide it. He's just like, I'm gonna look at you now. We understand each other. And she shuts the blinds. Like it's a strange introduction to Tom. It's so weird.
Well, this was his first movie too, wasn't it?
It was his first movie.
My God, this guy really tried. Paul Rudd really tried.
He didn't do it. It wasn't bad. I mean, I think he did it correctly. I think that's how the character was supposed to be portrayed.
It wasn't bad, but you could tell this man was trying.
Well, and you could argue. I mean, look, if you went through that when you were a kid, like the whole what happened to Laurie in the first movie when he was a child. Like, I mean, I guess you could say you would be kind of traumatized too, and it'd probably make you into a weird, like he's kind of a hermit. Like I get the idea. He just kind of stays at home. Like there's even a scene where Kara and her friends are in the car, and you're like, who is that or whatever, and she says he was watching me in my window, and Tommy looks scarier than Michael standing in the window. He's just
bro, really though, he was just standing there. Bro, that's some shit. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't even know. Like, even if you like her, what in your right mind says, if I stand out there and just stand, she's gonna fall in love with me? Who the fuck has that? Who the fuck has that mental process? Sorry, bro, ain't got no game.
Well, and
it came a long way. He came a long way from being the creep in Halloween 6 to being the sexiest man alive. Think about that.
True. That's
came a long way.
Well, he became Ant-Man.
That is true.
But it's funny, even when he calls the radio station, the guy's like, hello, who are you? What's your name? Who are you calling from? And he's being all like, radio host or whatever.
What?
He's being a typical radio host, kind of making fun of people or whatever. And Tommy calls and he's like, I was only 6 years old when I first saw him. I was like being babysat by Laurie Strode. And he, you know what I mean? And he, like, the way he's talking to him is very like, I slice my apples with a butter knife in the morning before I slather them with peanut butter. In my underwear. I wear tight.
Yeah, he really was weird.
It was strange the way he was talking to him. And of course, so we get the Tommy thing, but we also get Jamie, and she's, Dr. Loomis. Dr. Loomis, she's calling him. And this is the first time we see the greatness, the man himself, with his prestigious, go back and watch the movie, his prestigious bar in his house with every kind of whiskey and bourbon you could possibly think of.
Pretty much. Like, you got to respect that. That man was collecting that shit for years.
Yeah. He's sitting at his typewriter, and, the guy even says, he's like, and whatever happened to his old psychiatrist or whatever. I think after I don't know, I forget the exact order, but he's saying, about Michael's psychiatrist, and he says, I think he died or whatever. And of course, Loomis goes, not dead. They're just very much retired, and he kind of gets a kick out of it. Like, my hands are clean of Michael. I'm done. That's not my that's not my problem anymore. He's not my problem. And of course, obviously that changes when he hears Jamie, because he knows, oh crap, something's wrong, and even if you're Loomis, like I've seen some people, like, if Jamie went missing all of those years ago, wouldn't Loomis be like hell-bent on trying to find her? But I understand that, like, at the same time, he's probably like, listen, I had a stroke fighting him. Like, I've almost died at least 3 or 4 times trying to fight him. Like, I'm done. Like, he's not coming back. I'm done.
What you're saying is whenever he saw old boy in the black Tommy gun the fuck out of the fucking sheriff departments, he sat there and was like, I'm retired. No, I highly doubt that, my guy.
Dr. Loomis, the FBI came to him and they were like, we need you to join you're his doctor. We need you to join the manhunt for Michael Myers. And Loomis was like, very much retired. He just said, very much retired. That's it. And then, of course, he hears Jamie and...
Pretty much.
We automatically just go back.
Much did
and
say that.
He's just back,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and it's interesting. We get the whole scene. We don't know what's happened as you're watching it real time, because Jamie leaves the bus station and she's in the car. We think she has the baby. And of course, Michael finds her. They're kind of having this duke out session with the truck and the van that he's in. And she gets him to a barn. And this is, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, because I personally think they killed off Jamie way too early. I think Jamie could have been a constant through this movie. Even if you want to kill her at the end of the movie, I think, and I say that
Jamie was Laurie Strode's daughter, correct?
Yes.
It made no sense to kill her off.
Jamie is the key connection to Laurie Strode because she was her daughter. So so essentially this baby is Laurie Strode's granddaughter.
Stodes.
The baby.
Stodes. Larry Stodes. Okay, good job, my guy.
I need you to do that again.
No. He said, and then Larry Stodes was just the anchor of it. Bro, what the fuck are you saying? J-Dad, where you at? Comment on my guy over here.
I don't know what I'm saying. And of course, we don't know what's happened, but Michael tracks her to the barn, and they get to the barn. And I will say, her death is actually worse in the theatrical cut, because in the producer's cut, Michael just slams her down on the farm equipment, and then that's it. But of course,
her death was so shitty.
It was nasty. It was bad.
It was
bad.
It was like, how you gonna do that to the daughter of Laurie Strode?
Well, and listen, in the theatrical cut, he doesn't even, like, he puts her down on it, and I think she knows she's about to die. He shoves her on the farm equipment, but of course she reaches out and says, Michael. And she says, Michael. And he even kind of like, he reaches his hands out like, are you about to make me cry again? And Michael, then he's like, nope.
Yeah, right. You just made that comment.
I know. She says, I signed us up for Maury. We'll be on next Thursday. And then he's like, and slams her down,
Yeah.
Could you imagine? She leans up, she goes, Jerry. She's like whispering it to him before she dies.
Yeah.
But Halloween 6, The Curse of Larry Stones. J-Dead. Man, but legit, he doesn't just put her on it. It's like she reaches out and he grabs her and like pushes it down on her. Like he makes it so much worse,
Doesn't he turn on the machine, or am I?
Yeah, and he turns it on.
That's shit, dog.
It's
some
rough,
shit.
Man.
You do that to your niece. You do that to your niece. That's some shit, dog.
Rough.
That's how you know my man's got no lines.
Yeah. No, never mind. I was gonna say the baby's his grandchild, but it's not.
It's his grand.
It's not even his grand anything. It's basically his niece?
Grand niece?
I don't know.
Grand nephew.
I guess.
Right? Is that how that works?
I don't know. I don't know how that works. Families are hard.
Yeah.
And of course, we get to we obviously know that the baby has been left at the bus station in a drawer. Nobody heard the baby crying before Tommy got there. And of course, Dr. Wynn goes to see Dr. Loomis at his house, and he's talking, and we even get the great line, they're toasting. He says, to old friends or whatever, and they do their toast. Loomis is smiling, and Loomis says, to what do I owe the pleasure? And Dr. Wynn says, I want you to come back to Smith Grove. And it's funny because Loomis is like, he's happy, he's drinking his bourbon, and he's like,
you could tell the immediate vacation mode over. Retirement over. He's like 401k slice in half.
You should know better than to play
slice in half.
I love the the way he even says, you should know better than to play Halloween tricks on me, or Halloween pranks on me or something like that.
He was really just trying to have fun in this one. I'm just saying, he really was. I could tell he was much more like a
and even though, and it did feel like an organic way that Loomis got roped back in, like to the point where Terrence Wynn gets the call, and they find. I always thought it was strange that when Wynn and Loomis get to the barn where they found Jamie's body, the thorn symbol is actually burned in the hay.
Right?
And I was like, and it's perfect. It's like you took a big thorn-shaped iron and went.
I was just thinking to myself that whenever that came up, I was just thinking, I was like, was it like the cult, or was it just Michael with a bottle of kerosene just?
Well, it's just, I don't know. It's strange. It's like, what? How? What? Why? Like, it's strange to what? What the behood? It's weird to think that Michael would be like, you know what? This barn needs character.
I mean, you're not wrong, though.
He is an artiste, though. If you look at all of his other kills in this franchise,
but really, though, he really is. He's a man of taste. Besides all the killing, he's a man of taste.
He really is, man. And it's interesting because this is when Tommy kind of goes on his whole. Tommy goes on his whole shebang of, shebang. He's trying to, he's trying to figure out what's going on. He hears Jamie on the radio, and he knows that something's going on. By the way, I forgot to mention, after Michael kills Jamie and he goes back to the truck to try to find the baby, she's got the paper towel roll like wrapped like in like the swaddled, you know what I mean? And it's funny because he grabs the paper towel roll and he's like, ugh. Like you could just like see it in his face. Like he squeezes it like, ugh. He's pissed. Like he's mad that the baby's not in there. And we forgot to even mention that Tommy lives with Mrs. Blankenship, who they say, good morning, Miss Blankenship, and she's just sweeping her leaves. Like she doesn't even like acknowledge that like another human being is talking to her, and she's the crazy old woman from down the block. You know what I mean? That's her, and of course she lives with Tommy because why wouldn't Tommy?
She's the one you pull your kids closer to you whenever you walk by the house. It's like, don't need to get close to that.
Your kids are like, hi, Miss Blankenship. You're like, shh, don't say hello. Don't just look at me. Look forward, And it's funny because we haven't even talked about the whole Kara thing. I always wondered. I don't know if this has been clarified, and if somebody wants to clarify the relationship between John Strode and Deborah Strode, which are, by the way, callbacks to Deborah Hill and John Carpenter. What exactly is the relation between John and Deborah and their family to Lori and her parents? Is this?
I'm sure that's in the script somewhere.
Is this possible? I mean, maybe that was left out. Is this possibly? Is John Strode a brother to Lori's adopted father? Like, how is that? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure exactly how. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how they're family, but they're relatives.
Make it make sense.
To Lori Strode, exactly. Make it make sense. And they're very, I mean, good
They're
Lord,
fucks.
this family is a mess. And it's really just the dad, man. John Strode is a douche in this movie, And it's funny because I forget what Bradford something. I forget what his last name is. Comment down below and let me know. He does a great job playing like, the abusive, hard type, because even like every time the wife opens her mouth, he's like, and he's the kind of guy that like you could win him the lottery and he'd be like, it's only 50 million. That's all you could get me. Are you free? Are you kidding me right now? You couldn't wait until it was 100 billion to win. You had to get me the 50. Like you could do literally anything in the world for him, and he would still find an issue with it. Like he's just that kind of dude. But I hate to say one of my favorite scenes, but it's like it's one of those things where he's a well-written character because it makes you hate him, and it almost makes his death in the movie so much sweeter. The whole breakfast scene where she's kind of, we get the little bit of backstory on Kara. She's in college. She's obviously went through a hard time, and she's just trying to make it. She's trying to do the right thing. She's living with her family because she has to. She's got a kid. I'm sure there was a backstory there. You could kind of put two and two together with that. But you get the scene where Deborah, the mother, is trying to pass her mother is trying to pass her food. It's trying to pass her money. She's trying to give her some money, and that's when he's like, he's sitting there drinking his coffee, and he's like, "Oh, sure, Deborah, sure. Why don't you give her all our cash here?" And he pulls out his wallet. He's like, "Why don't you give her all our damn money or whatever?" And of course, the wife is like, it's like Mr. Dickovich in Spider-Man 2 when he goes, "I have eyes like a rodent."
Oh my god, that just hit my head.
It's like how he is, you know what I mean? Like he just, again, everything is an issue for him.
Yes.
And I forget exactly what what he says. He says something about that bastard son of yours when he's talking to Kara, and she stands up and says, "The only bastard in this house is you." And that's when he gives her the old good Mr. Knish, that backhand. And it's like Ace Ventura's good old Mr. Knish, But yeah, and he gives her that backhand, and it's just like, you just hate his character. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know about you. Did you like the whole Danny thing? Kill for me, Danny. Did you like that whole, like, because remember he slaps her and they look down and Danny's got like a steak knife, like up to his stomach or something. Like this.
Yeah, that one didn't really have any fruition.
It didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
Like I guess that they wanted Danny to be a part of the cult or something. I don't know. I don't know. It was strange. Like I'm not sure. I'm not sure where that was supposed to go, where they wanted that to go. That was
literally like the most like, ooh, is he gonna be like another killer? But they didn't do anything with it.
Exactly. Again, that was kind of like, even at the end of
that was something that like happened in the script and that was like filmed, and they're like, oh fuck, where do we go with this? Leave it alone. Yep, that's pretty much what happened.
Instead of write that down, they were like, take that out.
No, it's what do we do? We don't know what to do. It's in there, I guess keep it.
But he even at the end of the movie, it's like, holy crap, he's gonna become a part of the cult, and he doesn't. Like
I feel like
he's just fine.
I feel like at the screening they're probably looking at each other, be like, I thought we took that out, dude. And he's like, no, I guess we didn't. Whoops. I guess
a cod looked at Harvey Weinstein and was like, what the heck? What is this? So yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the whole Danny thing. I don't know. It didn't do it for me. From that point, Tommy actually finds Loomis. At this point, Loomis is at the hospital with Wynn. And this is where we get the first, the very first, now you have to think, this is the first interaction that Tommy Doyle and Dr. Loomis have had since 1978, like since the original night when they ran out on the street and got Loomis and said, he's got Laurie or whatever.
He's got lawyers.
He's
got lawyers.
He's got
Morgan
lawyers.
And Morgan, the hammer.
this is the first interaction that we know of that they've had since 1978. And it's funny because even seeing Loomis put it together, he's holding the baby. Paul Rudd's got the baby, which is awkward enough, and he's in the hospital. And which we even skipped over. Instead of walking in and be like, "Hey, I found this baby. I need a doctor. I need some help. I think the baby's hurt. I don't know." He walks in and he's like, "Get me a doctor." And the nurse is like, "Well, sir, I'm going to need some information." He's like, "Get me a doctor." He's just like, he just goes instantly to like anger. And the woman's like, "Sir, calm down." And he's freaking out.
I don't know. Like, if you walk in and it's an emergency and you have a baby, you'd think the nurse would pick 2 and 2 together. Distressed man holding baby. I need doctor. Sounds like you need a doctor right now.
Instead she said, "I'm calling security." And that was right? When
I was like, damn, okay. Don't you guys take an oath of protecting people and saving people, I guess? I don't know.
I guess not if you're being disorderly. But even he's like, Loomis, meet me here, whatever. And him and Loomis kind of have their first interaction. Loomis realizes that Tommy Doyle is Tommy Doyle. He realizes who he is. And again, another piece of the movie when Michael comes back to Haddonfield, when Michael basically the scenes at the Strode house where he's stalking Deborah Strode. Dr. Loomis just poof appears at the Strode house, at Michael's house, and he's like, "You have to get out of here. He's coming for you." This whole in her house, Loomis doesn't knock like a normal human being. Loomis decides to be like, I'm going to go in. He just waltzes on into her house. Like,
Loomis is done with the formalities, guy. He's just like out there. He said, if he thinks Michael is coming for you, he's coming to pick you up, like 100%.
Yeah.
Fuck the manners. The manners are gone. Funny the manners left in 1972.
It's funny because at this point it's like, okay, Michael's in the house, and Loomis comes in. He's like, "You have to leave. He's coming. Goodbye." And he leaves after they talk for a little bit, and it's like, bro, he's like, "I have to go do this other thing. You be safe. Goodbye." Morally, I've tried to protect you, so my hands are clean. I'm good.
He said, "I am happily retired. So as long as I tell you, my conscience is cleared."
Yeah. Could you? She's like, "But Dr. Loomis, where do we go? What do we do? How do we protect ourselves?" "Very much retired." He's just
I'm gonna say that at my job now. Or whenever someone asks me something, I'll be like, "Very much retired."
Very much retired. I need to make that a clip on here as well.
Oh yes, 100%. Please do.
Her death, arguably one of the best deaths in the franchise for me. One of the most iconic, at least.
Who?
Her running through Deborah Strode, the mom.
Mm-hmm.
The mother, running through all the sheets. Obviously she realizes Michael's in the house with her. She tries to escape. She's running through all the sheets out back, which is pretty intense because she loses the glasses. She can't see.
My
and
glasses.
I
can't see with my glasses. It's such a horror trope.
And it's funny. I actually have that in the thumbnail. Wait for it. She moves the sheet and it's just like, and boom. And he's standing there like that, like just looking down at her.
And then you have Paul Rudd looking back there like, "Get it,
and he's just looking.
And then you see Loomis right there. He's just like, "I told you to get out."
Could you imagine like little devil Loomis popped up and was like, "I told you."
Pretty much, yeah.
You should have been retired.
I would much rather. You know how when you have like the angel you and the devil you, like giving you like decisions. That little trope that they do. I'd much rather have a Loomis, angel Loomis, and a devil Loomis. You know what I mean? The angel Loomis is like the first Loomis, like from Halloween, like the original, and then the devil Loomis is like in like fucking like H6.
Yeah,
I'd much rather see that.
Where he even from H2 to H4, H1 and 2 to H4, like he's very like he's calm. He talks through things. He like even the conversation with Brackett in H1, like he's calm. He has a conversation about what's going on, and then we get to H4, and he just goes to like. He just goes to scream. He's just gonna scream everything, and he's probably drank a fifth of Jack Daniels this morning. He looks like he's hit the bottle. And speaking of hitting the bottle, even she calls John Strode to warn him before Michael kills her. She calls him to warn him, and he's like,
oh yeah, and John was just
Deborah,
being a
what?
dick.
And he's like, whatever. He pulls his Jack Daniels out of his drawer, and he's sitting there sipping at work. And I think it's funny because he comes home, you know, before things really start to like hit the fan. He comes home, and it's funny because he's hammered, his shirt's hanging out, his suspenders hanging, and he's like, thanks for the dinner. And of course he's walking around or whatever. Exactly. He's walking around and he's like, she really left me. And he just goes on with his day, like whatever. And then he's more worried about the fact that he doesn't have power than he is that his wife just left him. Like that should tell you what kind of dude John Strode is.
Oh
if
yeah,
we're being completely honest.
Oh
and
yeah.
He goes downstairs. His death is actually pretty wild.
That was like something. That was literally his death was like something. When I feel like Quentin Tarantino did give him a script, and then they were reading it.
Do you think that would have been something Tarantino would have done?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Mustafa Akkad was like, "We got to keep that one in."
Yeah, the electricity thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I know is it the theatrical version? I'm getting them mixed up now.
Oh, he blows up.
That's what I thought.
He actually blows up.
And that makes sense because they wanted more blood in the theatrical version. The producer's cut, they didn't want it as bloody. They wanted to kind of go back to the, as Dave McRae would say, theater of the mind. It's kind of in your head. The gore is in your head. It's not as much about seeing blood, about seeing crazy things go on. It's more how you imagine what's happening. But they didn't want that. They wanted this to be a blood fest, Here's where we get to the meat and potatoes of this thing. Tommy fills Kara in about Thorn and, this whole druid curse where on Samhain there has to be a sacrifice and yada, yada, yada. Michael's trying to kill his bloodline. The baby is the sacrifice. They realize that they have to protect this baby. And again, another strange Tommy moment. Because even when he sees, Danny's walking down the street, he's coming from school, and you think Danny sees the man in black all the way at the end of the street, and just boom, out walks Paul Rudd, and instead of being like, "Hey kid, can I talk to you for a minute?" Paul Rudd just goes boom, and he's just. And then we cut, and he's in his room. Like Paul Rudd is like, "Hey kid, I'm holding this baby. Can I come up to your room with you?" Like,
oh my God, that is true.
Like when Kara walks in and she's like, "What the hell are you doing in my son's room?" Like, I get it. I get why she's kind of whatever. Like, I would be too. You know what I mean? Like, bro, get out of here. Like, I don't know. Wait downstairs at least. Don't be like sitting
and
on his bed.
What's even more fucked up is like the only like knowledge he has of Paul Rudd's Tommy is the fact that he was like out watching her and shit, like eavesdropping her.
Yes.
And shit. So I was like, bro, she got some more like patience than I would.
Yeah, wouldn't you think he's like a psycho weirdo stalker person? You know what I mean? If he's sitting there watching you undress and now he's sitting in your house with your son, like,
yeah,
that's weird. It's so weird.
That's more scarier than Michael.
Yeah, I don't know. He really is low-key kind of scarier than Michael. And it's funny because we get to we kind of skip ahead a little bit. Things are starting to go weird. They have the baby. Tommy is trying to find Michael. Loomis is trying to find Michael. We get to the weird party thing, the party that's going on out in the, whatever. The guy that's the radio host who's the whole, I bet she wears crotchless panties and barks like a dog. That dude, who's like, he complete dick about it. He's like, when we come back, we're coming to you live from the Myers house, and he just basically invites himself over and they cut. He's like, kid, how far do you live? And he's like, we can't know. Like, you're not coming to my house.
Wait a minute. I about said, we're going to the Myers house. You'd think they'd know that address by now.
Yeah, you would think they know where it is, right?
Yep.
If it's some like legend or whatever. That's a good point.
Yep.
Well, even weirder than any of that is Homeboy and his girlfriend decide to go get frisky in the 10 minutes that this radio host is supposed to be on his way. Like, there's people on their way to their house, and they have time to get there, light candles, shower, and do it before this radio crew is supposed to come to their house.
You've obviously never lived the high school relationship, dog. We trying to do it everywhere possible. I'm just saying, that's the way it was.
Again, terrible character decision. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I get that.
I'll tell you what, their death is pretty cool though, because like his death, where you see Michael in the fog from the shower, where you just see like kind of the silhouette of Michael, and he kills him, and even her, because Kara's looking from across the street, and she's like, he's in the room with you, and she turns around, and by that point it's too late. He's already stabbing her, and whatever. And it's cool because she says, "Where's Danny?" And she looks down, and Danny, Mr. Genius, is walking up to the Myers house because, again, I don't really like it, but Danny's been inflicted with thorn, and so I kill for me.
Yeah, it really made
I feel like that's how the Man in Black is the entire time. We get over there. She gets upstairs, she finds Danny, which first of all, it's weird because Kara gets upstairs and she pulls back the sheet like she's expecting to she just watched her get stabbed to death, and she pulls back the sheet like maybe there's a chance she'll be alive under there, you know what I mean? It's strange. Yeah. She pulls it back and she yanks it. It's like it startles her that she's actually dead. Like, holy crap, that was real.
Holy shit, those are real knives in your back. Holy cow.
Well, she finds Danny, and of course, in walks Michael from behind them. There's kind of a cool chase with them, kind of a cat and mouse thing going through the Myers house. And I will say, man, Kara gets a nice hit on Michael. She knocks him good from behind. Yeah. Rails him hard from behind. Wait.
Pause.
And he falls down the stairs. We get kind of the cool showdown. Danny's on one side. Michael's laying at the bottom of the stairs, presumably knocked out. And Kara is behind them. And
what do you mean presumably knocked out? What do you think he does? Do you think he just gets knocked out? He's just standing there like, I'm going to wait a couple minutes for this.
He's
I'm not actually knocked out. I'm not actually unconscious. It's just the script tells me I have to stand here for like a couple of seconds.
Could you imagine? He falls and he's like, you know what? I never have time to rest anymore. This is really nice. This is just really, really nice. And it's funny because then Danny goes to step over him and he's like, nope. And he grabs his hand or whatever. Or I guess he grabs the ankle. And this, I will say, one of the cooler shots of the movie is Danny and Kara running back to Miss Blankenship's house, to Tommy's house. And then, of course, you get Michael walking across the street towards them. Loomis and Tommy arrive, and they're kind of conversing about what to do. And here's where we decide to sniff the paint thinner. It's revealed. We get the crazy reveal that Dr. Wynn is the Man in Black.
I'm not surprised by that at all.
Whole cult is housed at Smith's Grove. So they've been in on it this whole time. Michael has been a part, kind of a pawn of this cult the entire time. They're basically using Michael Myers as their pet. And it's just like, what?
Yeah.
It's just, I remember the first years ago, the first time I watched this movie, I was like, what? And it's funny because there's not even a good reveal for the man. Like, it would have been cool if like you would have seen the Man in Black silhouette and then he steps in light and you realize it's Wynn. But literally they just walk downstairs and Miss Blankenship, we realize Miss Blankenship is even in on it because she goes from, she's like little Mikey Myers.
Oh my God! When it was a crazy old lady,
you see him in like the lightning outside and whatever, and I don't know.
That shit was weird. I was like, bro. At that point, they were really like, okay, the entire town's on it. But I think it was like I don't really get like how do you make yourself a part of the House of Thorns? Like, what's the requirements to be in the House of Thorns?
What's
You know
your
what I mean?
initiation?
Yeah, like, what's your
How do you-
initiation? Like, what is it? Like, how
it's
are
like
you
it's
in it?
a fraternity. Like you have to do. There's certain things you have to do to get in.
But there's no explanations. It's like, or you have to be some type of race? Do you have to like do something or this or that? Is it like a blood trust or whatever? Like, who? I don't fucking know. So like, that's where it made the House of Thorns seem so out of whack, because it's not like, oh, okay, I could definitely tell why old Granny was in the House of Thorns.
Right.
It was just like, oh, guess what? She's in it too. It's like, what?
Yeah. Well, you see her with the knife, and of course, Kara screams. Well, when Loomis walks downstairs, Danny's sitting on his lap, and you can tell who it is. Like, again, there was no crazy reveal. He's sitting there, and Wynn just goes. It's just like, what? Like, what? That's the reveal. Is he just kind of turns his head and smirks, and of course you get the classic. It's like a Western when two people show up. Loomis is like, Wynn. Why? You know, and they get the whole whatever. And again, this is one of the weird choppy things about the movie, because they chase Kara. Kara leaps out the window, which
That one made me die laughing. She said, and I'm out.
Yeet! And she just left. But here's the thing. She would have been better off to just bolt out the front door or to dive out a window on the bottom floor of the house, because then she wouldn't have been passed out. She tried to get away. She dove out the window on the top story of this house and hit the ground, and it knocked her out, and they took her anyways. It's like you just suffered jumping out a window just for the sake of suffering jumping out a window. You know what I mean?
Here, give me a second. My pizza came in.
There was no like reason for her jumping out. Like, it's just so strange. She could have ran out the front door. She could have dove out the window that was in the room where we saw Michael with the lightning. But instead, she just decided to run upstairs, dive out the window, and she did it like a boss. I gotta say, she handled it like a G, jumping out that window. And you know, the whole reveal, like, what do you guys think about the whole Dr. Wynn reveal? I mean, do you feel good about the fact that there was a reveal with Dr. Wynn, or that he's the Man in Black, or would you have had just a completely different character introduced as the Man in Black? What? Do you get your pizza?
I did, and it looks so good.
Good. Where's it from?
Domino's, son.
Oh, Domino's is the best. Listen, I know everybody's about Papa John's. Domino's is better than Papa John's. Let's be real.
Bro, people talk about like the fucking, like, you know, like the flakes you get with the crust. Bro, all you do is do this, and you got more seasoning on your pizza. Like, fuck off.
Gross.
Oh, okay. You were just saying how good Domino's was, so
I don't even want to finish the show with you. No, I'm kidding. And Miguel, let me ask you this. One of the choppier parts of the movie, we get to so Kara dives out the window. We cut.
Bro, let me say this.
And just
Kara,
so listen, but suddenly Loomis and Tommy wake up on the lawn and they're like, "We've been drugged." It's like, what?
That's
like,
what I mean.
There's no lead into that. It's just like Kara jumps out the window. We've been drugged.
Exactly. What? I was thinking the same thing, because I'm pretty sure one of the cult members from the House of Thorns, they had chloroform for both Tommy, Loomis, and Kara. But then when she jumped out the window, one of the cult members was like, "I guess we don't need this."
Yeah.
I was like, when she jumped out the window, they're probably looking at each other. They're like,
"It's very
that was unexpected. Just put that back in the bottle, then."
It's very strange. And of course, here we get to the kind of the conclusion, the climax of the movie is at Smith's Grove. They've taken Kara and Danny and the baby to Smith's Grove. They've locked Kara in a room. There, I guess the inmate. We actually see some of the inmates just like walking around freely. Apparently, you know, these dangerous mental patients are just walking around doing whatever the hell they want. Apparently. And we understand that they want to sacrifice the baby, you know, to this cult and what I mean. It's the whole cult thing is such a mess. and it's cool because Tommy still wants, he's all about the ruins, and he's trying to stop Michael, which we don't actually see him use the runes until the producer's cut against Michael, which is so stupid. Oh, so dumb. But Loomis has got his revolver. Tommy's got his little bag of rocks. He's like, all right, let's go. Let's do this thing. And they separate. They go to find, they go to try and to find Michael, to try and find Kara. Tommy makes his way to Kara. He runs into an inmate. She's all kind of
jacked up.
Yeah, she's creepy looking. That scene always reminded me of a haunted house, like going through a haunted house and like somebody like pops at you from around the corner. And it's just like I just always got haunted house vibes from that. And dude, that would be a dope haunted house though, to do an H6 haunted house where you're in Smith's Grove and like the cult people are running around in the robes and the mental patients. We have
Waverly Hills Sanatorium, dude.
That's fair. Yeah, we do in Louisville. We do. No. Have you ever been there?
No, never. I could never.
You couldn't do it?
No, I'd be like Kara.
I would.
And jump out the window. Fuck out of here.
I would do it, but I think I would have to do it during the daytime. I don't think I could do it at night. I don't think I could.
Y'all really be fucking bold to say, you know what? I'm going to stay the night. Bro, what the fuck? You're literally making your own script of a horror movie. Pretty much.
You hear a noise. Write that down. Write that down. Write that down. And it's funny. Here's another awkward Tommy moment because Tommy finds Kara. He's banging on the door. He realizes it's her, and it's funny because Michael walks in the door like down the hall from him, and he just goes like, I found you. Like, but really, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, I know where you are. And they stare
at each other for like a hot minute.
Well, they stare at each other, and he grabs, he's got a fire extinguisher. He's trying to basically break the door open to free Kara. And it's funny because he stops, and him and Michael kind of stop and look at each other for a minute. And instead of being scared, Tommy goes, you know what I'm about to say, don't you? Instead of being like scared or angry or trying to hurry, Tommy just goes, and he's like awkwardly like smiling at Michael. I'm sure Michael's like under the mask. Michael's probably going.
He was literally like, what? That's why he walks so slow. He's like, bro, this guy's fucking stupid. I'm just gonna take my time.
I will say it's kind of strange because like you would think Michael could put a little bit of pep in his step and catch him because he breaks the door open, grabs Kara, and they come out. Michael's like 2 feet away from them. He's literally like this close to them.
They're literally like a lunge
he could
away.
Reach out. He could reach out and grab both of them. And we know he walks quicker than that because we see it. We see it just a few scenes later. We see Michael walking quicker than that. Kind of like not jogging, but he's being pretty quick,
He got a good pep in him step.
He does. He's got that pep in his step. Now, here's where we get Tommy and, let me rewind. We forgot to mention that Loomis is knocked out. Doctor, he finds Wynn. He's got the revolver. He's about to shoot Wynn. And man, Loomis, he's like, I'm not playing no games with this anymore. He's like, I'm very much retired. He's like, I'm about to shoot you. Like I was loving my life. I was sitting here. I was writing. I was retired, enjoying my 401k. I was drinking my bourbon, and you pulled me back out into this, and now I have to fight Michael again. So thanks. He's pissed. And it's funny because he's knocked out. Tommy and Kara end up finding Danny and the baby. And of course, that's when they're kind of waiting. There's something about to go on with the doctors. The doctors and Dr. Wynn, they're all kind of in this room. And this is one of the coolest scenes of the movie, possibly one of the coolest scenes of the franchise. The strobe light scene when he just slaughters. No, well, it makes no sense, but I always kind of took this as like Michael is not to be controlled.
It's literally it made no sense, but the scene was so cool that we just let it happen. That's pretty much what happens.
The producers and the writers went,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Just leave it in.
people in the movie theaters were like, "Bro, what the fuck just happened?" And they're like, "Shut up, it's cool. Shut up."
Just
Like,
enjoy it. It's a cool
yeah.
scene. Enjoy it. Enjoy the carnage. Michael Myers, Let There Be Carnage.
Fire Squad.
So, and I do think it's a cool shot when they're trying to be quiet and you see the door open and you just see Michael's shadow. Like you just see the shadow of like the hair, and he just walks in and turns, and you see the shape. And he, before he goes in the room with the doctors, like he even we don't see him do this much. We saw him do it a little bit in Halloween Kills. He chooses his weapon. It's like in like Mortal Kombat, or when you play like a war game where you have to like choose your weapon. He just kind of looks around and he picks a few things up, and he goes for like the bone saw machine. Bone saw is ready. He goes for the bone saw thing.
You ain't going nowhere.
I got you for three. Well, he doesn't even do a normal 3. He goes, I got you for 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes of playtime.
I was like, what? I'm so glad we fucking know that line.
Of course. And then Tobey Maguire goes, that's a cute outfit. Did your husband make it for you? That's great. I love that movie. I will always love that movie.
Yeah, it's a good one.
But of course, we get the whole just wild buku, crazy slaughtering all of the Cult of Thorn members, which I think is dope. I think that's a really cool. It's a
and
really,
then the script says Cult of Thorns ends here.
It's a really cool way of being like, you can't control Michael. Like Michael is his own. Michael's his own being. Michael's his own force of nature, you know. He slaughters all of them. They escape. One of the doctors actually runs out, and the reason Michael sees Kara and Tommy in them is because as they're running away, a doctor is running trying to help them, and Michael walks out chasing him. This is where I'm saying Michael obviously can walk fast. He could have grabbed Tommy and Kara in the hallway, and he didn't. Like he could have grabbed them because he's got some pep in his step. Like he's like, I mean, he's going, you know. I imagine he's breathing pretty friggin' heavy under that mask.
Wasn't there a fun fact about the guy he killed right there?
Yes, that's actually the guy. So George P. Wilbur, who also played Michael in Halloween 4, that is his dad running from him, playing the Cult of Thorn member.
There are some underlining undertones in that kill scene. Just saying. There was some emotion
and
in
it's
that
funny
kill.
because Tommy actually slams the gate and locks it. Or I don't even know if he locks it, but he slams the gate. No, he does lock it because Michael takes the guy's head and slams it into the bars a whole bunch of times. And he slams it so hard that the gate actually falls. Am I right? Am I correct in thinking that? The gate pushes over. Yeah, which is pretty crazy. And of course, from that point, this is where we get into the laboratory. And of course, they run in the laboratory. This is arguably the biggest difference. This is where the ending is completely different. In the producer's cut, as we know, Loomis actually runs out, and Loomis and Michael, like Loomis frees them. Loomis is the one that's like, go, you know, and Michael's walking, and Loomis kind of gets in front of Michael, and then they kind of escape and they do their thing. But in this one, they run in the laboratory. They see all of the different fetuses and whatever else that the Cult of Thorn has been like. Dude, I don't even want to think.
It got really far.
If those are all Jamie's
really
babies, I don't know. I don't even want to think about what any of that was. And we never really got like a clear explanation of what that was. You know, we never know. You know, I'm not going to say what I was about to say. Never mind. Never mind. And Michael ends up walking in. You know, there's kind of this face off between all of them. They're hiding, and Tommy, being the genius that Mr. Paul Rudd Tommy Doyle was, walks out and he's like, and he doesn't be like, hey, Michael, here's the baby. You've won. Take the baby. Like trying to be, you know, of course he's not holding the baby. He's trying to trick Michael because he's got the syringes filled with the green ectoplasm goo.
Nothing made sense on that one either.
It did make sense, but it's
Nothing
like, what was
sense.
this green liquid that he was about to inject him with? You know, and he's like, here's the baby or whatever. And it's
It was
funny
a T virus.
this is the beginning. Resident Evil confirmed.
Yeah.
But it's funny because Michael he kind of looked at him like, "What? You give me what I want, you know?" And
What kind of accent was that?
well, it's funny though because Tommy, again, if I was about to try to inject Michael Myers with poison, and I was willingly walking up face to face with Michael Myers, I'd have been like, "Bro, here, take this, leave me alone." But Tommy's like, "You've won, Michael. You can have the baby."
It's like, bro, he just killed all of his cult members. He doesn't give a fuck about you.
While you're at it, Old Navy has a sale on all jeans. $14.99 off. That's a great deal, Michael. Kiss me. No, I'm kidding. Pause. But he's really like awkward about it. And of course, Michael, like, I guess, I don't know if Michael flips it or if it falls. And that's when he stabs Michael with the green liquid. And he's beating him. He beats the holy hell out of him with a pipe for a little while. Beats him up. And we get down on the end. You know, they have their confrontation with
Tommy
Michael.
wishes he could do that.
I know, right? That's what I was thinking. I was like, when we saw H kills, I was like, low key, Paul Rudd's Tommy did more damage than Anthony Michael Hall's Tommy did.
Mm-hmm. Well,
legit, he kind of fared better against Michael with like ancient ruins and in a bag of rocks and some injection that he didn't even know what it was and a metal pipe.
Well, he had much more at his disposal. You got to give him that.
Fair, but he had old Huckleberry, and this Michael isn't anything crazy. I mean, he's still just a. I mean, this Michael in Halloween Kills is just a dude. You know,
that did be true though.
I mean, I don't know. It's just it's strange. So again, weird differences between the characters. Michael's on the ground. He's beat him up. And this is where we cut. This scene is actually exactly the same in both cuts, but we get really this is the finale of Tommy and Kara and the baby and Danny. They're in the car, and Loomis actually stops them and says, you know, they're like, "Dr. Loomis, come with us." And he's like, "No, go." And he says, it's so sad. I always get sad when I see this because this was Donald Pleasance's last scene as Dr. Loomis. And it's fitting. Like I guess if I had to pick one, actually, if I had to pick one, I would pick as a better exit for Donald Pleasance, as a better exit for the Dr. Loomis character. I would say that the theatrical cut of H6 is much, much better than the producer's cut. And I go, Miguel has not seen the producer's cut. I'm not going to spoil it for you because I think your jaw's going to drop to the ground when you see the end of the producer's cut.
Does Loomis call Michael daddy, or does Michael call Loomis daddy?
Both. No,
okay.
I'm kidding.
We're both daddy?
Yeah, they both say it and they both go, "What?
What?"
But, Loomis actually says, "I have some business to attend to." And he's smiling kind of like it's okay. Like, and I kind of always took that as like, Loomis knows this is going to be his final confrontation with Michael. Like, either Loomis is going to kill him or he's going to die trying. Mm-hmm. Like, and I think he knows that. And of course, I like this ending because, of course, the final shot we get is the mask, just the mask, laying on the ground in the laboratory. And we hear Loomis scream, and then that's it. And we cut to the pumpkin. And then we fade to black.
Mm-hmm.
And I always kind of took the ending of the theatrical cut with the scream as Loomis died fighting Michael. Like, Loomis died fighting, because you have to remember, this is the final chapter in this timeline. In the Thorn trilogy, H2O is not a sequel to 6. H2O is another reboot. So it's like is a sequel to is a sequel to H2. Because again, where do you write this after H6? So H6 is the final, if you think about it, I would almost think that, you could even argue maybe Loomis and Michael killed each other at the end. I don't know. Just hearing Loomis scream, I would assume Loomis died, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But I would assume he died fighting Michael. Like that was he went back into Smith's Grove. Like I said, like I'm gonna kill Michael or I'm about to die trying. Like one of the two. Like I'm sick of this. I'm about to go throw hands with him. Could you imagine that confrontation? Like Michael standing in the hallway and Loomis walks in. He's like, I've tried for 30 years to help you.
He says,
yeah,
he says this. He says, happily retired, or prepare to be happily retired.
Michael turns and tilts his head, and Loomis goes, after this, you'll be very much retired. he just goes, put him up, put him up, put him up, put him up. You know, he's got the old like fisticuffs things going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, that's H6. It's got some of the coolest things in the franchise, but the whole Cult of Thorn plot. Just I'm not a Cult of Thorn dude. It's not my favorite storyline. I much prefer I don't know. I don't mind it as much in H4 and H5. I think H6 it explains it too much. It explains the mythology way, way, way too much. Like just on a level that we don't need, you know?
So would you rather it be more ambiguous than direct?
Yeah,
Like
with Michael's origin, and again, this was the purpose. The purpose was to talk about Michael's origin in this movie, but I would much rather it be a little bit more indirect with his origin and how it all came to be than explain it all like they did here. I mean, it was just like almost every bit of his mystique and mystery was explained through this cult. And, you know, really, you could even argue that the main villain was not Michael. The main villain was Wynn and the cult, you know?
Yeah.
Michael was
simply just like a dog.
He was like their dog. He was just like, Michael was trained to do what they wanted, basically. And, of course, Michael turned on them at the end. And it did come back down between Michael and Loomis. But I just, you know, I don't know. It's interesting, man. It's definitely a very interesting film. When you look at the production, when you look at all of the numerous drafts, how it came to be, and then even the two different versions itself that we got. And who knows, still wasn't even what's not in either versions. I would love to talk to Daniel Ferrens just to hear kind of his original intention, like how he would have filled in the gaps of what we don't know, you know, because both cuts, no matter what cut you watch, the theatrical cut or the producer's cut, they both feel very choppy.
Yep.
And just kind of like plunked together. And again, not the writer's fault. It's not his fault. That's, you know, Harvey Weinstein's fault, Akkad's fault, the producers, everybody who had their hands in it, trying to grab a piece of it and trying to make it what they thought it should be. You know, it's too much. And I think when you have a film that's, you know, it's the sixth film in a franchise, it's, you're writing storylines that don't make any sense at this point. You're basically trying to make something out of nothing. You know what I mean? You're trying to build the Taj Mahal out of Play-Doh. Like it's just not going to happen. So I think they did. I think they did a great job with what they had. Miguel, final thoughts on Halloween 6, the theatrical cut.
So pretty much, Halloween 6, I would say it's definitely like a movie in its time. Because that was back when, like, you know, it was so many like outlandish ideas back then, and Dimensions was happy to produce any one of those movies. If you look at any of Dimensions films, you know that they kind of go like out of the ordinary, and they always try to take the extra mile. And I could definitely see that with this H6. In regards to the story in and of itself, I thought that, I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of the House of Thorns either. And the reason why is because I don't think it was executed well. I think if they were going to put a cult there, it could have been executed much more accurately than what we actually got. So what I would say is Michael is scary enough as it is, but if you want to add that extra little salt of you know, cult light aspects, don't make it the main thing. Like, honest to God, like, don't make it like the main thing in my eyes, because that way it pulls too much away from Michael, and his like atmosphere of just dread. And it got to the point it was pretty much just like a Cult of Thorns movie again, just like in
It was.
H3.
Yeah. Well, and even H3 was different. I think H3 did it a lot better. But again, it's one of those interesting things. Am I glad it exists? Of course I am. I'm very glad it exists. I'm glad that we can. I mean, we just had a 2-hour discussion on this. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to talk about it. It's not my favorite storyline, but that doesn't mean I don't like it. I like that it exists. It's fun. It's definitely a fun one to talk about, and it's a good time. So, kind of a preview real quick before we go, a preview of our final 3 episodes of season 1 of Purely and Simply Evil. Next episode, we are going to talk Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's kind of in response to we're going to talk the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is a sequel to the original 1974 film, drops this Friday on Netflix. We'll be doing a full review for that next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. on the main show on Let's Talk Movies. We'll be doing a full review for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Our final 2 episodes, episode 8 and 9 of Purely and Simply Evil for season 1, will be on Halloween H2O and Halloween Resurrection. That will kind of finish us out. We've talked all of the all of the Halloween films in the franchise. We've already done Rob Zombies. We will return, maybe, who knows, maybe at Halloween time. We're going to come back. We're going to hit H3. We're going to hit the producer's cut of H6. We're going to do a commentary of Halloween Kills. Hopefully do some cool stuff with that. Who knows? Maybe we'll come back and we'll hit Rob Zombies again at some point. The day is new.
The day is new, sir.
to the night is young, the day is new, whatever. Choo. So whatever floats your boat. Next season, super hyped. We have a new intro coming for Purely and Simply Evil. Super hyped about a lot of the things that we have coming. Should we say our next franchise, or should we leave it?
Oh no, if you want to say it.
So I think Miguel and I have both decided the next franchise that we're going to really dive into. And of course, like we've done with this, we'll do Texas Chainsaw. We threw that in there because of the new movie. Somebody requested Event Horizon, so we threw Event Horizon in there. We are going to talk A Nightmare on Elm Street. That is going to be our next major franchise that we talk about on Purely and Simply Evil. But of course, it won't just be however many episodes of just Freddy. We're going to throw in extra stuff in there too. We like to break it up because, it gets tough. We might even break it up a little bit more than we did in season 1, because it's been a lot of just Halloween straight through. Not that we don't love Halloween. Look behind me. Y'all know we love Halloween. But it'll just be good to break it up. Super excited about what we got coming to the channel. So next episode of Let's Talk Movies, we will be talking the trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Good Lord, that is a whole other can of worms. That's going to be a huge discussion about what they dropped in the Super Bowl trailer. So be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at We Talk the Movies. New episodes of our shows are every Tuesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. and 4 a.m. Good Lord, I got to go to bed. 8 p.m. and 10 a.m. Eastern on YouTube. You can find all of our episodes, the replays, not only on YouTube, but on all podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Again, take care, guys. We will talk to you guys soon. And remember, we're not dead, just very much retired.